Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. Welcome. If you're new, I am a young homeschool mom of three. I will have a first grader and a kindergartner this year, as well as a toddler. I'm also a homeschool graduate, and this channel is everything homeschool. If it pertains to homeschool, we can talk about it here. So today in particular, I'm going to talk about a crafting project that my older daughter did recently that she absolutely loved. And that is this, well, it's called a sensory art kit, but basically it's a clay paint by number. Now, this is from Timberdoodle and they gave it to me in exchange for my review, but my daughter loved it and I would absolutely let her do another one. It was great. In fact, let me show you her finished product. And as I'm talking about kind of this product and letting you know just some thoughts on it, I will put some videos up of her doing it so you can kind of see it in process. But her actual finished piece, and you can see it, was this. And now this is a 6-year-old who completed this. So you can kind of see skill level here, but you can see in comparison, hopefully you can see here, kind of how it turned out for her. She loved it. It was really, really fun. And I'm just going to talk through a few points, a few thoughts on it. I have very little critique. There's maybe one thing that I will mention. Otherwise, it's pretty much all positive. And I did ask my daughter what she thought. At the end of the video, I'll give you her quotes of what she thought of it. But to begin with, so when you open the kit, inside, very simple, you have a few miscellaneous papers with Okto's branding, some information on them. You'll have this paper bag that has these clay pouches in it, they're little plastic and pouches full of different colors of clay. They're numbered so that you can associate them with the number on your palette. You also have a color guide sheet showing you what colors are what. And you have your essentially your palette with the numbers and the outline of your design on it. And it's in this little black frame. So it actually looks pretty decently nice when you're done with it. So as you open it, that's just all that comes in. Oh, there's also a little plastic knife that kind of helps you guide things into specific spots if you want it. So we opened it up. And we took several days to do this. So the clips you'll see of her are her doing it over several days. We would open it up when her younger siblings would go down for a nap. And this was a great, quiet activity that she could do pretty much by herself. She needed me to open the little clay pouches for her periodically. And in the very beginning, I had to kind of help her figure out how to work the clay. The clay is a little different than I was expecting. It feels less like clay and more like almost silly putty texture, and not quite as stretchy and slimy as silly putty, but kind of had that like reminder to me. I'd like that association came out. And when it dries, it's also not hard and firm like a clay. It's almost like a hard foamy texture, like some of those like floor foam mats. That's kind of the texture it reminds me of. So texturally, it was a little different than I was expecting, and just to figure out like the spreading of it, it took her a couple minutes. But once she got that, she was pretty much able to do it on her own, and she really enjoyed it. It was a really, like I said, a really good craft for her to do by herself when her siblings were sleeping. It was quiet, and one of the things I loved about it is it was mess free. Like there was no cleanup. You might want to have your kids wash your hands just because you don't know what's in the clay if you're worried about like chemicals and stuff, but it didn't have any odors. Nothing funky smelling. It didn't stick to her fingers. It didn't stick to anything on the table. So it was really easy to take out and put away with like virtually zero cleanup. We only opened one color at a time because I didn't want them to dry out, and because we were doing it over several days, that worked really, really well. But it was super simple and straightforward, right? The numbers are on the palette. The numbers associated with the colors are on the paper, and she's filled in the little spots. And then she had her little knife to kind of, if anything was sticking out over an edge or to push it into the spaces better. Just essentially, like I said, a big clay color by number, only the clay isn't quite clay. Um, it was easy also to stop and come back to. If she could complete a color, basically, you wouldn't want to leave a color out because it would dry on you. But just to do one color at a time, it was a very easy project not to have to sit down and do like take a couple of hours. Essentially, I don't know, when you set up a project that has a lot of pieces or a lot of mess, it's kind of hard to want to pull it out every single day because it's like this big endeavor. Whereas this was really easy to just shove everything back in the box and then pull it out the next day. It was very, very easy to set up and tear down. And now that she's done with it, it's actually kind of fun because it's in that frame. It's something that she'll be able to display in her bedroom. So I don't know if we're going to put a nail up on her wall or set it on the shelf or something, but I'll let her put it up in her room. And it's her piece of art that she has completed and can set in their room, which is kind of fun. So my one minor critique, and it is pretty small, but I will mention it, is that the colors on the packaging are a little different than the colors on the actual board. I felt like on the packaging, the green was a much richer, darker color in the background, whereas in the actual um, piece itself, it's more of like a teal, like a light, almost pastel-y green. Also, I felt like the pink and the orange on the fox are much more highlighter colored than they looked like on the packaging. In the packaging, they were almost more of a rusty or bright orange, whereas I feel like the orange for the fox in real life is actually a little bit more of a highlighter color. Would that change my purchasing it for a 5 or 6, 7, 8-year-old? No, they wouldn't care. But it's just like I said, just a minor detail that I thought I would mention. Okay, so I did ask her what her thoughts were after she had completed all this. And she knows I do these videos. So I said, "Is there anything you want to tell people? Anything you want to tell them about it? What did you think?" And she said, "You'll love it." This is what she wanted to tell you. "You'll love it. It's super great. It's just clay." So that was her assessment. And then I did ask her if there's anything she didn't like about it. And she did have one thing that she mentioned. And she said, "You might want to let it dry in between, otherwise it will mix." And basically what she meant by this, and this is probably due to her skill level. Like I said, she's 6. If you had a slightly older child, this wouldn't really be an issue. But on the days when we let like the clays dry before putting the clay next to it, she had no issue. But one day she did black and orange together, and she would do the black and then she would do an orange. And when they bumped up against each other, occasionally they would mix a little bit, and then you have like orange in your black or black in your orange, and she had a hard time managing that a little bit. So then she would take some more orange and cover up that spot. It was on the orange, or more black and cover it up. And that frustrated her a little bit, but it wasn't really a big issue. And if you had a child who did run into that, then I would just say don't do colors that touch each other on the same day. Just break it up in a couple of days. Like I said, it was a little bit frustrating, but not really. And it wasn't really an issue with how this was created as much as with my child's skill level. So I would say super fun. Like I said, I think to be super fun to do as an adult. I have nothing bad to say, really. This was a great craft for her, and she really, really enjoyed it. I will link to it below. So if you're interested, that link will be down there for you. And I hope you guys are having a great week. We will be seeing you guys again soon.